Students, today our topic is ancient architecture in India. That is a part of second unit. Okay. First, what is architecture? Architecture means study of the buildings and structures and the designs. Fine. So, being a civil engineering student, you should know about the ancient architecture and richness and the different designs we have in our country. Fine. First introduction. Ancient India witnessed the rise and fall of several dynasties. That is, in our country, many dynasties ruled our country. Then, many emperors and kings were great patrons of art and architecture. Generally, many kings and emperors they support, they give a lot of money for construction of temples, building of temples, and construction of many buildings and for the development of temples, architecture, art, they gave a lot of money. So many emperors, many kings like Ashoka, like Akbar the Great, and Chandragupta Maurya, like this, many kings and emperors who ruled our country, they supported, they patronized our art and architecture. Okay. Then, what about this lesson? This lesson sensitizes the richness of art and architecture in our country, that is in India. Okay. Many of us don't know what is the richness of art and architecture in our country. For suppose in our state, in Telangana state, many architectural monuments, many students they don't know, like Golconda, Charminar, or Thousand Temple, Pillars Temple in Warangal. Like that, there are so many temples, so many masterpieces or architecture masterpieces and arts we have, but many of us don't know. So it gives a glance about the ancient temples in our country and who are the different dynasties supported for the art and architecture in India. It gives a note on the different schools of art in ancient India. There are different schools of art and architecture. They developed by different dynasties or different rulers. Like it starts with the Gandhara art, Madura art, and then Amaravati School of Art, Dravida art. It's a style and a Nagara art, like these different schools of arts we should know. Right. Next, Indian architecture began with the Mauryan period. Mauryans were the first rulers who patronized and who supported and who gave lot of importance to the art and architecture. Then, the person or the ambassador. Who is that ambassador? That is Megasthenes, the Greek ambassador of Seleucus Nicator. Seleucus Nicator was the ruler of Greek and who visited Mauryan court and described Chandragupta Maurya's palace as an excellent architectural achievement. Okay, so who described Chandragupta Maurya's palace as an excellent architectural achievement? That is Megasthenes. Who is Megasthenes? Megasthenes was Greek ambassador of Seleucus Nicator. Who was Seleucus Nicator? He was a Greek ruler. Fine. Then, an important phase of Indian architecture began with the Mauryan period, as I said. It was a first step. Then, what was the material? The material prosperity of the Mauryan and a new religious consciousness led to the achievements in all fields. Fine. Then, what is the structure or what is the richness of Mauryan palace? See, Chandragupta Maurya's palace was a large carved out of wood. It was a large palace carved out of wood. Okay, so it was made of wood. Then there were significant advancements in the field of architecture during Ashoka's reign. That means during Ashoka's ruling. That is from 268 to 232 BC. Mauryan art and architecture imbibed the influence of the Persians and the Greeks, because Persians and Greeks they visited India at that time. So at that time there were some great rulers in Persia and Greek, so they had lot of influence on the art and architecture also. Then, during the reign of Ashoka, many monolithic stone pillars were erected, on which teachings of Dhamma were inscribed. The highly polished pillars with animal figures adorning the top capitals are unique and remarkable. The lion capital of the Sarnath pillar has been accepted as the emblem of the Indian Republic. Each pillar weighs about 50 tons and is about 50 feet high. Fine. So, what is Dhamma? The teachings of Buddha. They were inscribed on walls. Okay. So, at that time, the Buddhism was adopted by Ashoka, and he gave importance and he developed that religion. So, that religious practices and religious teachings were inscribed on the walls and on the pillars also. That pillar culture was developed in Ashoka's period or Ashoka's reign. Okay, then the stupas of Sanchi and Sarnath are symbols of the achievement of Mauryan architecture. The gateways of the Sanchi stupa with the beautiful sculptures depicting scenes from the Jataka stories bear testimony to the skill and aesthetic sense of artisans. So it is like that is as we said, the pillar culture, pillar style was developed in the Mauryan period. So the Jataka stories, that means some teachings of the Buddha, also inscribed on the walls beautifully. Then, first school of art, Gandhara art. The blending of Greek and Indian art led to the development of Gandhara art. What is Gandhara art? Gandhara art is the blend of Indian and Greek. Okay, the Gandhara school of art had also developed in the first century AD along with the Madras school during the reign of Kushana emperor or Kanishka. Fine. Next one. What are the features of Gandhara art? Under the Gandhara art, lifelike statues of Buddha and Bodhisattvas were made in the likeness of Greek gods. You see the picture Buddha. This is the unique feature of Gandhara art. It is an example for Gandhara art. Lifelike architecture, lifelike structures, standing structures. Okay. Then the ideas, inspirations, and subjects were all Indian, but rich ornaments, costumes, drapery were used to impart physical beauty. What are the rich ornaments? You see, this is drapery. Then ornaments. These are all Greek. Okay, this drapery style, it was Greek. Fine. So these were all Greek style. The sculptures were in stone, terracotta material, cement-like material, and clay also. So these are the features of Gandhara art. Next one, Madras School of Art. The other schools of art and architecture were the indigenous Madras School and Amaravati School. So there are two indigenous schools of art: Madras School of Art, Amaravati School of Art. Madras School of Art refers to a particular school of Indian art starting in the 2nd century BC, which centered on the city of Madura in central northern India during a period in which Buddhism, Jainism together with Hinduism flourished in India. So at the time of where the three religions, Buddhism, Jainism and Hinduism were flourished, at that time Madura school of art was developed in northern India. Okay, then what are the features of Madras School of Art? The figures of Madras School were made of spotted red stone. And who patronized this Madras School of Art? A large number of statues of Buddha were built by the artisans of these schools, especially after 1st AD under the influence of Kushanas. Under the influence of Kushanas, this Madras School of Art was developed. Okay, then they had a distinct spiritual look about the um, figures. Then, here, along with the Buddha, we find sculptures of Jaina deities. That is, in Madras school, both Buddha and Jaina sculptures also developed. The another indigenous school of art is Amaravati School of Art. The Amaravati School of Art developed under the patronage of the Satavahanas of the Andhra region. A great stupa was built at Amaravati in the lower Godavari region. It is also one of the indigenous schools of art, as I said. Fine. The walls of the stupa were adorned with bas relief. These had a carved medallion and decorative panels. Nagarjunakonda is another place that is famous for its Buddhist architecture. So Amaravati School of Art also represents Buddhism. Okay. Next one. Dravida School of Art. It is developed by the Chola dynasty, Chola rulers. The Cholas built many temples, the famous being the Brihadeshwara temple at Tanjavur. They developed a typical style of temple architecture of South India called the Dravida style. What are the features of Dravida style? It is complete with Vimana. Vimana is at the top, okay, the and a large one, and shikara means the tomb, the last, the peak of the temple. High walls, that means surrounding the temple, that is amidst of the temple, they construct a high walls, and the gateway topped by gopuram, that means at the entrance they construct gopuram. Now we can also see in many temples in southern India, first we enter into Gopuram. After that, we go to Garbhagriha. Okay, this is the typical style of Dravida style. Magnificent temples were built at Beluru, Halebedu, where the stone engravings reached and even greater heights. So, for best examples for Dravida school of art, we can see in Beluru, Halebedu, which are in Karnataka. I enclosed some YouTube links for your reference. You can check that. Next one, Nagara School of Art. Nagara art. It is a style. In the northern and eastern India, magnificent temples were constructed. Okay, what are the features of Nagara style? It is now referred to as the Nagara style. That is, the most of them consisted of the shikara, spiral roof. For suppose if you watch them, Sai Baba temples, they are all with a spiral roof. The shikara is like a spiral roof. The Garbhagriha was sanctum, that also with the spiral roof. And the mandapa, large pillared hall. If you observe some temples, they construct big mandapas. Okay, these are the features of Nagara School of Art. Okay, next, cave architecture. The development of cave architecture is another unique feature and marks an important phase in the history of Indian architecture. Okay, what are the four famous cave architecture temples in India? See, the Ajanta and Ellora caves of Maharashtra and Udiri caves of Odisha. More than 1,000 caves have been excavated where archaeologists have discovered sculptures that were created in the 2nd century BC and AD 10th century. Fine. These caves hold Buddhist viharas, chaityas, as well as mandapas and pillar temples of Hindu gods and goddesses. So, in this cave architecture, the three religions, both Jainism, Buddhism, and as well as the Hinduism, also represent in cave architecture. Next one, rock cut temples. In rock cut temples, how do they construct temple? Temples were hewn out of huge rocks. The earliest rock cut temples were built in the western Deccan in the early years of the Christian era. The Chaitya at the Kal caves with fine high halls and a polished decorative wall is a remarkable example of rock cut temple. So the Chaitya at the Kal caves, it's a best example for the rock cut temple. The another examples, Kailash temple at Ellora built by the Rashtrakutas and the Radha temple of Mahabalipuram built by the Pallavas are other examples of rock cut temples. Okay. That's about rock art temple. Most probably the stability and the permanence of the rocks attracted the patrons of the art and builders who decorated these temples with beautiful sculptures. Fine. Next one. Freestanding temples. The temple building activities that began during the Gupta rule continued to flourish in later periods. The Gupta period marks the beginning of the construction of freestanding Hindu temples. Okay, that's freestanding temple culture. The style was first um, initiated in the period of Guptas. Okay, the temple at Devgarh, Jhansi district, which has a central shrine or Garbhagriha where the image of the deity is placed, and another temple at Bittogon, Kanpur district, are two fine examples of the freestanding temples. Next, who are the other dynasties supported the freestanding temples? Pallavas, Cholas, Pandyas, Hoysalas, Vijayanagara rulers, Chandela rulers. These all supported the freestanding temples. Okay. In southern India, these rulers they supported the freestanding temples. The Pallava rulers built the Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. The Pallavas also built other structural temples like the Kailashnath temple and Vaikanta Perumal temple at Kanjipuram. The Cholas built many temples, the most famous being the Bhubaneswar temple at Tanjavur. These are all examples of freestanding temples. Okay, then in northern, the next one, other temples other temples which are remarkable for the art and architecture. Odisha has some of the most beautiful temples such as the Lingaraja temple which has built by the Somavamsi kings, which additions with by the Ganga rulers, the Mukteswara temple in Brodeswara and the Jagannath temple in Puri are also instances of exemplary temple art. The Sun temple in Konark was built in the 13th century by the Eastern Ganga ruler Narasimhadeva I. The temple is dedicated to Surya god. Next, the temple complex at Khajuraho was built by the Chandela rulers between the 10th and 11th centuries in the Bundelkhand region of Madhya Pradesh. Most important among them is the Kandiriya Mahadeva temple. Next, Mount Abu in Rajasthan is known for the Dilwara temple dedicated to Jain Tirthankaras. These were built in pure white marble and adorned with exquisite sculptures. They were built under the patronage of the Solanki rulers. The Somnath temple in Gujarat, the Kashi Vishwanath temple in Varanasi, the Govinda Devji temple in Madura, Kamakya temple in Gauhati, Shankaracharya temple in Kashmir, and the Kali temple at Kalighat in Kolkata are some other important temples which were testimony to the temple building activities of Indian subcontinents. Okay, these are the other important temples in India. Then the religious influence, as I said, Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism. These three religions have influence in our art and architecture. Then, what are the dynasties ruled and as well as patronized the art and architecture in India? It starts with Mauryans, Kushanas, Satavahanas, Guptas, Rashtrakutas, Pallavas, Cholas, Eastern Ganga rulers, Chandela rulers, Solanki rulers, Vijayanagara rulers. Okay, these are the some external links in YouTube where you can watch the art and architecture and some examples for the different temples. Okay, thank you.